Good morning, or good afternoon, I should say, commission members. First order of business today, our chairman is out, so we do need to select a temporary chair and then move on with the agenda. So I think that's best done through a nomination and then a vote.
I would like to nominate Councilman Sean Wright.
I second it.
We got a motion and a second. Can I do this, Kelly, this way? Can I do it? Okay, so motion a second. We do need to do a roll call vote. This is not usually the seat I sit in, so I'm getting used to it. So we do need to do a roll call vote nominating Councilman Wright to be our chair for today's meeting. Mitzi?
Dr. Bonner,
Aye.
Mr. Cunningham,
Aye.
Mr. Montgomery,
Aye.
Mr. Seiler.
Aye.
Do I say Mr. Wright? Do I have to say him? No, okay. That's all.
That's motion is approved, so congratulations, Mr. Wright. With that said, we will need to do opportunity for anybody to speak on actionable items. We didn't have anybody sign up to speak, correct, Mitzi?
Right.
Yep, so we do need to open that up if anybody wants to speak, and then it's up to you.
All right, fantastic. Is there anybody that wants to speak on an actionable item? Seeing none, we will move forward. And I would like to see if Dr. Bonner would give the prayer and the pledge, please.
I'm happy to do so. Thank you. Please join me in prayer. Father, we thank you for the privilege of community stewardship through the Murfreesboro Parks and Recreation Commission. We yield to your guidance as we pray for the fulfillment of the needs of our great city, our county, our nation, and the world. We pray that we may continue to grow in our faith and love according to your word, your will, and your ways. In your Son's name, amen.
Amen.
Please join me for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Item number one, the presenter is not quite here yet, so we're going to kind of, we're good now. Never mind. Disregard. All right, presentation and consideration of the Greenways, Blueways, Bikeways Master Plan. Rachel Singer is introducing the designer, Kimley Horn.
Yes, good afternoon, members of the commission. We are excited to be bringing you the updated Greenway Blueway Bikeway Master Plan. This is a plan that we did in 2013, and over the past 10 years, I know you guys would agree with me that our community has changed. We've had a lot of studies done throughout the county and the city as well that have played into needing to update this plan. So I'm going to introduce Mr. Kevin Tilbury. He is with Kimley Horn, and he is going to go over the Greenway Blueway Bikeway updated master plan.
Great. Thanks, Rachel. I snuck in on you. I'm sorry about that. But
It's all right. Very
good
sneaky.
afternoon. Thanks, everyone, for letting me come and present with you today. My name is, as Rachel said, I'm Kevin Tilbury. I'm with Kimley Horn. We partnered with staff on developing the plan, and we're excited to present it to you here today. Before I get started, though, just curious to see, show of hands, if you guys can play too. How many of you have ever used a Greenway, Trail, Bikeway, or Blueway in your life? Okay, most people have. How many of you have used it to actually get somewhere, to get from home to work or to go run an errand or something like that? Anyone? No one? Okay, that's surprising. I actually used to do that. How many have used it for health? Several of you. How many of you use it just for fun? So yeah, so trails can do all those things. And that's specifically why the city has developed a plan for greenways, bikeways, and blueways, is because they bring significant value to the community for several reasons. And so we're going to present to you today the plan. It's an update to an existing plan to enforce the greenways, bikeways, and blueways that are already in place, and also to create new ones. Now, you're probably wondering why we're doing an update. Well, I think the previous plan is about 10 years old, and as you probably noticed, Murfreesboro has grown quite a bit in the last 10 years, so things change. Priorities change, people are moving into new areas, and your needs change. And so we've updated the plan to respond to that. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Do I need to start the slideshow? Let's see. Perfect. So these are the tasks. It's a very methodical process. We first sort of took, I mentioned a lot of things have changed in the last 10 years, so we tried to take stock of what those changes are so we could develop the plan. And then we started to look at, what the future might look like and what are some of the key connections that we need to make. And then we started to sort of build the plan around that. And from that, the recommendations, then we started to develop those into actual projects that the city could fund, design, and implement. And wrapped around all that was a continuous process of engaging you all, leaders, and the residents to help us identify what's important to the city. I think you all have a copy of the final report, so this is how it's laid out. And so everything I just described is laid out in the final report, and we'll kind of walk you through it in the presentation. But if you want more detail, you can definitely dive in there, and it's presented there. So I mentioned, the first thing we did is sort of take stock of existing conditions. So we looked at, what are some key destinations that we may want to link up with a Greenway Trail network. So we looked at things like schools, retail destinations, employment, hubs of activity, all those types of things. And then we also looked at, what's already out there, because you've done a really good job of developing an existing system. So we wanted to take stock of, sort of what's already out there. Stones River, a lot of really great facilities, so that we could connect. We looked at where existing blueways are, and do people know when I say blueway, what I mean by that? Yeah, it's sort of a number of great water features throughout the city, and it's just how we interface or connect to those if you want to get access to those. And then we also looked at what some of the existing bikeways are around the city as well, so that we could connect. One notable change, I think, sort of a little bit of a different direction this year, we took the previous plan, is that one of the things that we've learned is that your residents are more comfortable on off-street facilities than on-street. So this plan focused more on developing those off-street facilities as opposed to on-street, although we do have some provisions for that, especially in neighborhoods where there are lower speeds and lower volumes, so we could do that. These are some of the goals and objectives. So this is what the plan sought out to do. It's really these four main items. So we wanted, as I mentioned, we wanted to build on the trail system that you already have in place. So, continuing to provide connections to that. I mentioned things like, quality of life, health. One of the things I didn't mention that trails actually, the research shows provide benefit is economic too. Is that they can provide a significant amount of economic development. And there are examples around the country of communities that have, doubled in their retail and in their revenue just by, building along trails, what we call trail-oriented development. We wanted to be able to provide access to places where people already recreate and go for health. So parks, playgrounds, those types of things. You should be able to get there, via walking and biking. So we tried to connect those things as well. We tried, as I mentioned, we tried to connect existing facilities, existing blueways, and then probably one of the more important things is that you want to be able to get access to grant money to help construct, design, and build the new facilities. And the best way to do that, to be most competitive with other communities around the nation, is to have a plan in place. So you're more likely to get federal funding when the state or the federal government sees that you have a plan in place, and that's exactly what this plan will do. It'll put you in a better position to get that funding. So we took stock of existing conditions. We said, okay, this is what we want the plan to do, and then our next step was to take a look into the future and see where we're going and how we can, make recommendations to support that. And that's what this map shows. It's sort of a summary map. We divided the city up into the different areas that you can see there, and we looked at, where the important things that we want to connect are parks and schools, but we also wanted to look at where population is growing. So where are we seeing, the population go? And we want to get ahead of that and maybe start to build out a greenway system around that to help complement that growth. And so that was one of the important things that we did with this map. And then we sort of played connect the dots, if you will, and started to draw connections. So what are some areas within each of those areas that we need to connect? And then how can we better connect those areas to each other? And so you see a couple of different colored lines there. That reddish darker color are new connections, and then the yellow are some existing connections. So those are things that have already been proposed either in the previous plan or from the community, and we're simply calling that out and saying, yeah, those are things that you've already suggested, and we're saying, yeah, those are still valid. And then the darker ones are some of the new connections that we said, hey, we've seen some changes, and here are some of the new connections that we think you should make. We also asked the public to tell us, and so that's what this map is. It's called a wiki map, and it was online, and people could draw lines on the map online to tell us where they wanted to go. And you see there's a lot of overlap between the map we just showed you and this map, and that was just simply confirming some of the areas that people told us they wanted to go. We needed to make sure to make those connections. So this is a little more refined version of that map that I just showed you, and this is what we built our plan around. So we identified 6 areas around the city, and within each area, we developed recommendations. I'm not going to go through every project, so don't worry. I think there are a total of 25 recommendations that are spread all throughout the city. This is Area A, so it's just on the other side of where we are right now, on the other side of the interstate. And it's one of the faster growing areas in the city. And you can see that the recommendations generally would fall into, I guess you could say, 3 different categories. One type of recommendation would be along an existing river that you can see there. So we call those, we can call those blueways. They run along the river. Others are run parallel to existing facilities, so existing streets, and those are typically in the form of a side path or side trail. And then others are new connections where we find either an abandoned right-of-way easement or something else that we could design a trail connection along. And then the facilities, depending on how much right-of-way we have and where it's located, it could be sort of a standalone facility, or it could be more built alongside an existing road. It really sort of depended. But we had to go into each one and sort of make a judgment call. So that map that I showed you earlier that had all the arrows on the map, this map tries to put those arrows into practice by identifying feasible connections within each area to make that happen. So this is Area A. The numbers on the map correspond to specific projects, so I think you'll see a table of projects in your report, and they provide descriptions on what each one of those are and how much each one we think will cost. And we'll show you that table in just a minute. So this includes where we are right now in downtown, and this is you've got a lot of your existing greenway and trail facilities here already. So in this area, we focused more on making those connections, so connecting new areas to those existing facilities. This is Area C, a little bit north of there. This is Area E, down by MTSU and south of there, and then Area F. So each one had its own specific set of recommendations, and you can provide, each one has a description of what it is, what it's connecting, where it's going from, where it's going to, and what the facility type is. So we developed the recommendations, and back in the fall, we were here in the lobby, and we had a public meeting, and we asked people, to give us their thoughts and to give us their feedback on those trails. And in a lot of cases, people said, yes, that's exactly what we want, good job. This is what's most important to us, or hey, have you thought about making this connection? So we made a few tweaks based on what we heard from the public. The other thing that we tried to do, so it probably won't come as a surprise to you that the city does not have unlimited funds. So we've got to be able to prioritize our projects, because it's going to take a while to get them funded, to get them designed, and get them built. So we have to figure out, okay, so what are the projects that we want to pursue first? And so the way that we did it is we used a very data-driven approach to identify the trails that provided the most value to the community. And so what you see here looks like a bunch of numbers. I'll break it down for you. The numbers that you see running across the top, those correspond to the numbers that we just showed you on the map. Those are the individual trail projects. And then the rows that you see running down the side, that is the evaluation criteria. So that is how we evaluated and scored each one of those projects. So we looked at things like how well does that trail connect to existing trails? How well does it connect to things like transit? How well does it connect to where people actually live? All those types of things. And then we also looked at accessibility. So does that trail provide access to a trailhead? Does it provide access to a school? Does it provide access to a really important destination? We also looked at safety. So does that trail, is it gonna address an existing safety issue like a crash hotspot? And then finally, we also looked at cost. So each one of those was scored. And you can see at the bottom, that is the total score. So it does not mean, so you can see there the higher scores obviously mean that's the higher priority. That does not necessarily mean that that's the project that's going to get funded and built first. This was just a tool to help us understand what the higher priorities were. And then we took this information, we also heard what the public told us about what they thought was most important, and then we started to put together the priorities. So this is the short-term list. These are things that are actually already funded in the CIP. So these are things that you'll probably see come online within the next several years. So they've already been funded. They're ready to go. The next list of projects are going to take a little more time to design, fund, and build. We're calling them midterm projects. So those, we might see before the close of the decade, maybe a little bit longer than that. And there are 6 projects that you can see there. And we tried to stay within about the $7 million range because we think that's what we can reasonably fund and build within that midterm horizon. And then this last group of projects are long-term. And these are projects that either didn't score super high, they were sort of a lower priority, or they're like really big projects that are going to take a good bit of time to get the necessary funding to design and to build, or they meet more of a long-term need. And these add up to a little over $60 million of need in today's dollars. But we think that that these are, within the long-term, when we say long-term, we're talking probably 25 years, that we think this is a pretty feasible list to be pursued and built over that time frame. So I think that's the end of the presentation. Thanks for your time. I will stop, and I think, do we want to take questions?
Good information. Any questions?
I think we're going to have to really delve in to the maps and the proposal that we got. Well, I see Thompson Lane here, Thompson Lane in the long term. Is that the Thompson Lane from the Thompson Lane trailhead up to Siegel that we had talked about?
Let Kevin answer that question, the Thompson Lane specific, since you've got that in front of you.
I
Yes.
thought that was being designed into the Thompson Lane expansion.
That is in area D, and so you can see there that, if you put so you can see that's number 12 there on the map. So what your question was, where it was located, or? I'm sorry.
Yes, I thought if it's Thompson Lane, from the Thompson Lane current trailhead up to, in the back there, we got.
I'm going to ask, Mr. Kerr is our
We might have
transportation director, I think.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, we actually do have a multi-use path along the Thompson Lane project from basically, Broad Street to Memorial.
Yeah.
And it is actually funded through TDOT's Modernization Act. So that project will move forward. I think it's scheduled maybe 2025 letting timeframe. So
Yeah, we're kind of at the mercy of the Thompson Lane
We are.
project.
Something we talk about with these plans is, when we vote to approve these plans, it's plans in principle, what we think would work, right? So we're not committing the city to funding anything, it's just what the plan would look like. And what we've discussed throughout this process is that, opportunity a lot of times supersedes prioritization when it comes to these charts. We don't have to go down by that list, but it might be a funding mechanism that we have that we can actually implement a section that might not be high on our priority list, but serves us best long-term.
Any other questions?
I have one more quick thing. I think it is very important, as you stressed, to have a plan as we go forward and try to get funding from the state and federal governments, because that's exactly what they look for. So this hopefully will help us make those applications.
When we look at funding, there's lots of opportunities for a greenway. Our greenways, if you stretch it out, it's a linear park, and it's the most popular amenity that we have, the most used. So we're constantly looking at ways to expand it and increase opportunity. I think with the help of, Kent has been doing this for a long time with us, looking for opportunity, and still the advocacy of former Congressman Bart Gordon looking for opportunities is still a funding mechanism. So this type of tool helps us be able to get those implemented and funded in unique ways, and helps us have a really unique greenway system in Murfreesboro.
Excellent. Would anybody like to entertain a motion?
I move we approve.
Got a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Can you please call the roll, please?
Dr. Bonner,
Aye.
Mr. Cunningham,
Aye.
Mr. Montgomery,
Aye.
Mr. Seiler,
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
Aye.
If I could just say one quick thing, Mr. Wright. This has been a collaborative effort that's been going on for some time. Our Parks and Recreation team, Rachel's led this from our end, but we've worked closely with Jim Kerr in transportation along with Lexi Stacy. Lexi has been kind of the engine keeping this thing moving forward, so we couldn't do it without their help. And they're here today, and we really appreciate that and look forward. From here, Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're going to take this to the Planning Commission next. Is that correct?
Planning Commission next Wednesday for the first to schedule public hearing.
Yep.
And the public hearing will hopefully be scheduled for June 5th.
Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks for everybody's hard work on that. Item number 2 is a Veterans Park update. Mr. Williams.
Yes, thank you. We're excited. We have our representatives here, Mr. Trey Rudolph from Gresham Smith. Gresham Smith was contracted, did our conceptual layout for Veterans Park, which is located off Veterans Parkway. In the past few months, we've been working hard. We meet just about every week with their team. We've been up to their office. They've been down here. We meet virtually a lot to go over where we are. So we're in the construction design phase. I'm going to let Trey take it here in just a second, but we wanted to bring this back to you to show you the work that's gone into it and lay out really the next steps. As our council has really tasked us with getting this park implemented, and we're working hard to do that, and we really want to show you where we stand and where we're going next. Trey?
Thank you, Nate, and thank you to everyone here for inviting us to come and present and be able to talk about this project. Our team is so excited. I can't even describe how exciting it is to be a part of a project that can be such a big catalyst in a community. So kudos to you guys for pushing this forward, for having the foresight, to Nate and your team, and coupled with the type of planning effort that Kimley Horn has been doing with you guys. These types of projects can start to string together and really change the way people live their day to day. So just a quick overview. I want to explain kind of our design process as we go through the whole park master planning through implementation. So first phase would have been the park master plan, which was presented to you guys in November of last year. This is the exhibit that was shared then. We were tasked at that point to take this program, start to develop construction documents for the scope that was included here. As a high level, we're talking about restorative landscapes, destination playgrounds, some active sport courts, extensive trail network, internal, all of these things that really start to create that active park. Where we are in the process right now is we're just at the end of our schematic design phase, which we would consider in the 30% completion type range. And then we'll move directly into design development, construction documents, and implementation from there. So that's the way our process kind of stacks out. We are finalizing right now our cost estimate that we're updating from the master planning effort, taking consideration changes that were made during schematic design, some of the detailed development that came into it. We feel like we're right on target for where we were at master plan, so that's good news. And again, kudos to Nate and his team for not adding too much stuff in that we get out of whack and can't deliver on what we promised for. So what I want to do now is just walk through some of the plans. This is just a few selections from the set that was delivered to the city, and we'll just start to see some of the detail that has been developed. I know this is an overall exhibit, just kind of orienting you to where things are within the park. You can kind of see the dense, what we consider the heart of the park, where you'll see event lawn space, that's your destination playground, your parking. A lot of those components show up there. So this is just your high-level overview. Starting at our park entrance, trying to think about what does your arrival sequence feel like when you come to the park? What do you see first? What's that design aesthetic, the language that we want to establish as soon as we arrive? And the intent for this park is to be more passive, right? We're trying to get a little bit more back to nature, give people a respite, get out away from the city, get with nature. So we want to try to implement that as quick as we can as soon as you come into the park. So we're continuing to revise this and modify. How do we position sidewalks? How far away from the travel path should it be so that you get that more passive, recreational type feel, a little more pastoral in the way it's designed. So this is where you see the entrance road, street trees lining. You see some of our trail network showing up here. Part of the scope involved here is a multi-use path along Veterans Parkway. We have a work session scheduled tomorrow with Nate and his team to really start to flesh out more of these details and understand how we want that multi-use path along Veterans to look. So you'll see it here depicted right up on the right-of-way. Not sure that that's the right way to do it. We're certainly open to a little bit more undulation, curvilinear layouts, make it a little bit more passive and recreational in nature. Some of that will be determined by, topography through there, the cost of implementation. So we're trying to balance those things as best we can to deliver a positive project here. So as we pull further into the park, now we've arrived at what we have considered the heart of the park. Right here in I don't know if you can see a cursor on what you're seeing. Right here in the middle, this is what is really kind of driving the activity in this space on a day-to-day basis. This is where your destination playground shows up, and the intent is to break this space into 2 or 3 different levels of play that accommodate different ages and abilities, give everybody an opportunity to play in their own space, but also integrate and mingle and make that inclusive experience as positive as we can. We're looking at synthetic turf at this point. We've worked with Landscape Structures to begin to work through some concept equipment layouts. We have some of that information, and it has informed our cost estimate at SD, but it's not pinned down enough to share it with you guys yet. So that's coming in future with more of a description of what these features will be, how they can be utilized. So that's a big component here, and I know it's a big driver for staff. So we're really trying to make sure that we nail that piece. And moving on around, you see some active sport courts. Right now, we're showing that as a mixture of pickleball and tennis. It could be a number of different things as we work through and refine that program. What are the real community needs? Do you need tennis courts, or do you need 800 pickleball courts, or whatever it is? So we want to make sure that we talk through that and nail it on this first pass. And then also, we want to set up a framework that would allow this to grow and expand over time if it needs to. So we're also considering whether or not this location in the park is the right spot, or do we need to move it out, give it a little more space so it could expand if we need to in the future. The ask on this was to provide 4 courts that would be covered, pickleball courts that are going to be covered and people can use in all weather conditions. Certainly they'll be lit to a safety level. The intent is not to have this park active, after hours necessarily, but there are times of the year that 5 o'clock it gets pretty dark, and we want people to be able to get out there and still have some activity, activate the space. So they will be covered, or some will be covered, some will be lit. You're also going to start to see pavilions showing up through here, and that's probably one of the bigger changes in design direction from master plan to where we are now, and you'll see some more detailing on that later. So Just know that those are pavilions for right now, and we'll talk more about the detailing and design of those in just a minute. This is pushing off to the east side of the park, and it's a timely update, from Kimley Horn and their team to provide that trails, the Greenway and Blueway trails. So what you see here is a future connection down to the creek that would tie into that planning work that they've been doing, along with what's happening out along Veterans Park. I'll back out one, let me go all the way back here, actually. What I didn't point out at this stage is the incorporation of a 2.5K trail loop system. So the intent would be that we provide a 2.5K loop that we can run 2 laps, and you've got a 5K event pretty easily programmed within the park. It's also easier for people to come out and train and be active. If you've got a measurable distance that you know what you're running, it's a lot easier to kind of get out there and draw people in. So I think the point there is that along with the Trails and Greenways master plan that you guys have, we're adding a substantial length of trail as part of this project just inside of the park. So giving people a destination to get to, extend that experience that they have, and then start to intermingle with natural meadowland restoration, some reforestation that we expect to happen on the property. So that's the connection back to nature. Everything's starting to work together on this one. This is another deviation from the master plan where we start to look at what do we want an event lawn to be in this park. We don't really know yet, right? So we don't have it programmed. You don't know what event is coming, how big a festival might be. So the best thing we can do now is provide as much flexibility as we can for the city to utilize this space as effectively as possible for the community. So we expanded the event lawn, provided a bigger space. We're expanding the maintenance pavilion there. There's also a significant electrical component that could support a stage if we need to have a stage. If you want to have movie on the lawn, this is great for that. If you want to have a music festival, a small one, you can accommodate that. So you'll see in the plans, we're trying to provide a framework of flexibility for you guys to expand into and grow with over time. A little bit closer enlargement of the playground area where you see we're flanked by 2 pavilions, each of which has a restroom facility in it to accommodate easy use for people that are at the playground. We're trying to also work with topography as best we can. One really exciting way to stretch your dollar in the playground space is to use the ground plane to your advantage. So give kids hills to go climb on. I've got 2 young children myself, and that's the first place they're going. They're going to get on the hill and roll down it and try to get as dirty as they can, right? So we're trying to provide those opportunities throughout the playground. The more we can do there, the less money we have to spend on a slide or swings or anything like that. So trying to find creative ways to stretch our dollars just a little bit. And then the enlargement of the active sport court area, again, like I mentioned, pickleball, tennis provided right now. This is all still in flux, but just wanted to let you see kind of the level of detail that we're starting to think through. And then the next piece that I think is really exciting about this project, and it sets the tone for what the aesthetic, the design intent is for the space, are the pavilions. So this pavilion plan that you see here, we have 3 of these. 2 at the heart of the park and 1 off to the east that's a little bit more remote that has a future connection down to the Blueway. Started to play with more of the natural earth tones. We want woods and metals, trying to provide something that is timeless without being too classic, right? Allowing this park to kind of push the envelope and the look and the feel of the way you guys have traditionally done covered spaces in your parks. We're excited about the look. I know that Nate and his team, all were in support of it, and this is reflected in the cost estimate that we are working through final revisions on right now. Just a different perspective of it. And here it's hard to see, but the 3 kind of magenta circles are where that particular pavilion would be located. And I only point that out because our 4th pavilion is a little bit bigger and similar design aesthetic, but it incorporates your maintenance facility into this structure. So instead of having separate facilities, we're trying to put it all under one roof. It saves us a little bit on utilities, grading, stuff like that. So trying to, again, stretch our dollar as best we can, but still provide something that you guys can be excited about, the community is gonna love, is a really useful space. So this is what that pavilion starts to look like. So it takes that monoplane slope and adds a little wing on the back of it to provide the covered space for maintenance crew as they need it. Still have restrooms on both ends. And this is the space, this is the pavilion that addresses your event lawn. So the high side is looking out across your event lawn. So think of this as sort of your backdrop for any event that's going on. If you need a covered grandstand, you've got it built in right here. If we need significant power to run something out there, it's built into this space. So everything has been thought through and tried to be integrated into this maintenance pavilion here. The view, we have a few perspectives of this one. Backside for the maintenance access, a couple of roll-up doors there. And again, that's the location for where that pavilion would be planned. And then quickly, I wanted to throw up, after we had worked through design concepts on the structures, we went to our internal graphics and wayfinding group, developed some concepts, presented those to staff, and came out with this design directive. So this is very loose. We've got a lot of detailing to figure out on this, but in terms of park signage, this is what we're starting to see. So the top right, this would be your primary monument sign as you pull in, as you enter the park. That's what you'll see first. And then bottom left corner, directional signage for vehicular movement. So you're driving in, you want to know if I'm trying to get to the multi-use fields, I'm going to go this way, playground ahead, tennis courts, all that stuff, right? So that's the intent for those pieces. In the middle there, we've got pedestrian access. So we see this as a trail marker of sorts. So right at the trailhead, you know, follow the blue dots on the pathway, and this gets you to 2.5 miles or whatever the descriptor ends up being. That's the level of directional that we're looking for there. And then finally, the pavilion ID sign. So all this to say, the signage will be developed into one family of signs that tell the same story in a design language, and that starts to unify the entire park. As you expand your trail network, you use the same sign, and it looks like it was all designed together. So trying to think forward as much as we can on that. That's the end of what I have to talk through. Our next steps, like I mentioned before, we have a work session tomorrow with Nate and his team that kicks off our real effort on design development. We've got about 8 weeks in our schedule for that process. We will revise the cost estimate again based on any changes that happen between now and the end of design development. And then we're gonna sprint through construction documents and try to get implementable, buildable plans about 8 weeks after that. So we're 4 months or so away from the end of our design process. So I'm gonna stop talking, take any questions you guys have.
From just a staff level, I'll just say, so what he said about the 8 weeks, you know, we're 8 weeks away from having a cost for this build out. We took it to council, I forget which month, and showed different options of how they wanted us to pursue this park, and they said pursue everything and check back with the cost of the park. So that's where we are, and we're gonna, I think in a couple months, be able to take that back to the council as a whole and see which way we want to pursue. So they're keeping us updated in the meantime about what they think kind of our cost is, and I think we were really close on the very beginning. So we're excited at a staff level. We'll take that back and see, you know, how council would like to go ahead with the proceeding and move forward. But while Trey's here, any questions specific about design, I think we'd love to answer those, or from a staff level as well.
Any questions or comments?
I'm really excited about the event lawn because I can see I have this vision that it will be designed for Shakespeare in the Park,
Absolutely.
Jelly Roll, Frankie Beverly.
Whatever you want.
Oh, yeah, I am really excited about this. So do you have any numbers or anticipation for capacity? Because I would love to have a blues festival here. as well.
How many people do you want to choose?
Oh, my. No, that's dangerous.
Another good thing about the way this event lawn is set up, we can still mess with the proportions a little bit on things if we need to, but I think it sets up well to have one kind of main stage event. We have these two smaller side spaces that could be a little more intimate. So you start to think about how you build out a real festival there. I think it sets up really well, and we're excited about this change from the master plan, that we provided an event lawn, but we didn't really fully integrate it into the design at that stage. So I think this does a much better job. In terms of capacity, for an outdoor standing room only event, you're looking at probably 7 square feet per person, planning wise. I'd have to pull exact dimensions on this, but let's say we have an acre there. So 40,000 square feet, give or take, you probably could jam about 5,000 people in that event lawn, just standing there looking at the stage. So I'm not saying that we've got parking for 5,000 people yet. That's a different problem that we can wrestle later on. But
We do have a big multi-purpose field that's on the northern side of the park that we can use as a backup parking, is what we've designed it for. It's a flat surface. But one thing, Dr. Bonner, about that event space, one gap that we have in the park system, we'll have groups that call and want to bring a festival or a concert or something like that to Murfreesboro. And out of our 2,000 acres plus, we don't have a great spot that's ready-made for that. So this really provides us something to be able to have more awesome things for the residents of Murfreesboro and the people wanting to visit Murfreesboro, on top of our internal events, which, we will absolutely do everything we can to make positive things happen there from an event standpoint. But the private sector also can put on really good events, and we'll have a nice space for it as well.
I like that.
Like a blues festival. Yeah.
Our Uncle Dave Macon days. Wonderful. I really like the design of the pavilion, so I like the direction you're going with them. They look really good, so I appreciate your hard work. And I know all the people on the west side of town are really looking forward to this project.
great, thank you for that feedback.
Thank you. All right, if there's no more questions, we will move on to item number 3. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Nate Williams, tell us about the finance report.
Yes, Mr. Wright, this is just an update. This is a 7th-month report, nothing big. We're just providing these to you so you can kind of see where we stand financially when it comes to expenses and revenues. So as always, you can feel free to look through that and feel free to call me if you have any questions specific about it. But there are a couple areas where we're trying to make up some revenue where we're down a little bit, but I feel confident that we will. And other areas we're significantly overperforming. And then we're about to get into our heavy revenue season, especially with camps and everything coming on board. So another good year. Team's working really hard to make some really good things happen.
Awesome. Sounds wonderful. All right. Roger Brady, how about you come up and tell us about the duathlon event?
Good afternoon, everyone. It is recommended that the commission approve a duathlon event, which namely I'm wanting to call a do-run for the fall of 2024, and I'm looking at a date around September 28th, around the end of the month. The duathlon, it's an athletic event that consists of a running stage, a bike stage, and it ends with a final run. The following similarity of it is like a triathlon, it's just that you eliminate the swim section. Variations in the distance are allowed. One, namely, is the Powerman Duathlon. It's a major bike and run event that they do all over the world. The distance of it starts at 20K, and they can go as high as an 80K. This will be a timed event, so from running to bike to running, the clock will still continue to run. The distance that I've chosen for this event is the sprint that's at the beginning. It will consist of a 1.5-mile run, 9.3-mile bike ride, 1.5-mile run, and the total distance will cover the 20K, and it basically rounds out to about 12.43 miles. So we're just leaving it at 12.4. The cost of the program will be $30. There's no activity fee included with that, and it'll cover the T-shirts and the awards. If you have any questions about that, or if you have a picture, I think, of what I'm saying the event looks like, if it was included. Did anyone have that? Yes, okay. And it's, like I said, it costs $30 for T-shirts and awards, and it's just recommended that the commission approve this program. And if anyone has any questions.
Any questions, any participants? Anybody wants to know?
Yeah, there you go. Any participants?
I'll participate in making a motion to approve.
I got a motion, I got a second. Got a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Dr. Bonner?
Aye.
Mr. Cunningham?
Aye.
Mr. Montgomery?
Aye.
Mr. Seiler?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Next on the list is consideration of the St. Clair Senior Center rental fee changes. Trevor Hutchinson.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today I am presenting a consideration for some rental fee changes for the St. Clair Senior Center. Kind of three things we're wanting to do here. The primary one is we're looking to change the hourly rate. It comes out to $10. I'm not sure if you guys have the new prices that we're looking to do with you today. Okay, so you'll be able to kind of see that $10 raise there for our 4 main rooms. Primarily, we're looking to do that. We have been in contact with other seniors facilities that do provide rental options for theirs as well. And we're just trying to stay within that competitiveness with them as well. And this rate, something specific to that, is this will be for all non-residential. Residential discount will stay the same. Secondly, we are looking to do a $25 non-refundable cleaning fee. Primary reason for that is we don't really have issues with people leaving quote-unquote messes behind in facilities, but we do still have to provide employees to come in afterwards and clean and sanitize surfaces, floors, everything of that nature, kind of to the standards that we hold, to then open up the room for programs that we do with in-house. Thirdly, and the last thing, is we are looking to do a $50 setup fee if there is an altering of the room. One of the people that we have rent from us all the time is AKA, great organization, but they do change the room setup completely. Like, we have to completely strip the room down just to the floor so we can kind of set it up to what their requirements are. So ours being primarily, they rent the cafeteria, the dining room. So we provide space for eating and then activities. They're doing something more along the lines of presentation or even vendors. So we are looking to do a $50 fee for that, only if we need to alter the physical structure of the room. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions? If there are none, does anybody have a motion?
Make a motion for approval.
Got a motion, and anybody with a second?
Second.
And a second. Got a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Dr. Bonner?
Aye.
Mr. Cunningham?
Aye.
Mr. Montgomery?
Aye.
Mr. Seiler?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next on the list, consideration of Patterson Park Community Center rental fee changes. Ms. Jenkins.
Good afternoon, Commission. Patterson Park Community Center offers a variety of rental spaces for our community to rent at an affordable price. We are requesting your approval to increase our rental rates to the existing city resident and non-city resident rates for an increase of $10. Our rental fees have not increased within the last 5 years, and the reason for the increase is due to the rising costs with inflation and the rising cost of equipment needed to make the necessary upgrades and maintain the adequate and quality amenities for our customers. We have provided a copy of our rental facility guide for you to show you our existing rental fees, and then also a copy of the proposed rental fees. We're proposing for our new rental fees to take place in our upcoming fiscal year of July 1.
Wonderful. Any questions?
We do such a great job in this community with the facilities and the staffing and the flexibility to meet our needs. I just think it's commendable. And everything in life has gone up, even potato chips and Baby Ruth bars. So we understand the challenges you have now
Thank you.
with the costs.
We're constantly tweaking. You know, we don't go through, some other agencies might go through and do one fee increase, but you probably have tracked the trend, but we bring them monthly to adjust them. And our staff has worked hard to make sure that pretty much everything we have now has a city resident discount. That's a priority I think that this commission has wanted, and then our council has wanted too. So I think we're pretty much there with everything, from pavilions to camps, everything.
And you know, our facility is very uniquely designed, and when we researched and compared our pricing to our neighboring city, which will be the Metro Nashville Parks and Recreation Department, their regional centers have a rental rate of $150 for their gym spaces, and then their meeting room spaces are $75. So we wanted to keep our rental rates comparison, but also affordable for our community.
Great.
I think you're doing an excellent job over there, and I'll make a motion for approval.
Got a motion? Anybody with a second?
A second.
I got a motion and a second. Can you please call the roll?
Dr. Bonner,
Aye.
Mr. Cunningham,
Aye.
Mr. Montgomery,
Aye.
Mr. Seiler,
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
Aye. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. And while I have the opportunity, we do have our Patterson Park rental team here. This is our dynamic duo. They do an excellent, stellar job with customer service. We have our support specialist, Ms. Aubrey Robinson, and then our assistant recreation facility coordinator, Mr. Larico Flowers. Like I said, they're the dynamic duo. They're a huge reason for our success with our rentals. So
Thank you for all your hard work.
and tell them thank you so much for their hard work. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you. Great. And the next item on the list, upcoming programs and events. Ms. Caldwell.
Yes. Good afternoon. This open. I've got something fun to show you. I think we told you last time that we were going to be dropping our new podcast that City TV has created, and it's called Talking Parks. And so that drops today, and I'm going to show you a quick little preview of it. Hello, everyone. I'm Michael Lynn White, and I'm here with Nate Williams, and we're here because we have a brand new podcast called Talkin' Parks, where we're going to let you in on everything that's going on in the Murfreesboro Parks and Recreation System. It's coming out April 3rd. You don't want to miss it. So yes, you see on there, you can follow that on anywhere that you normally listen to your podcast, but we're really excited about that. We're also going to be just kind of highlighting all the different stories, again, like we always say, that we have throughout Parks and Rec. So you'll start to see all the different facilities. That's what the podcast is basically going to do, is going to highlight all the facilities, the people, the stories, the things that you can do there and so forth. And again, just really help build that brand and build our story and tell that.
Well, Nate has missed his calling.
I know.
He can give Gerard Butler run for his money.
Nice to be consistent with the dress.
Yeah, this is my uniform. I walked out in the hallway and they had it playing out there. So I like this vest. What can I say? Yeah.
So we're really excited about that and hope that you do take a moment to watch that. Just a couple of other things that we have going on. This Friday, I think I touched on it briefly last time, but we have lunch on the plaza. So hopefully everyone will come out for that. But that is going to be every Friday in April and May right here at Civic Plaza. We have 4 to 5 different food trucks planned. It's going to be a little bit chilly this Friday, so bundle up, but come out and enjoy it. It's going to be a lot of fun. Over the next several weeks, we will also include some music and different groups and things like that. We'll have tables and chairs set up, and you can just come out and enjoy lunch on the plaza. Miracle Field is starting this Friday night. So we've got games at 6 and 7, and then all day on Saturday from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. So we encourage you to come out and enjoy that. It's an incredible experience. We have Pioneer Days at Cannonsburg again on April 27th, so make plans to join that. The Special Olympics will be May 6th and 7th. Remember, we want fans in the stands, so the best thing that everybody can do is come out and cheer those special athletes on. That will be at the Dean A. Hayes Track and Soccer Stadium over at MTSU. And then just remember, this is definitely one of our busiest times of the year. You can check us out at www.murfreesboroparks.com. On our Things to Do calendar, we list all of our events, and there's always something happening. Any questions?
Thank you so much. Any questions?
Thank you.
Great job.
Good job. All right, any other business? No other business? If not, we stand adjourned.
Okay.